And I'm confused because sometimes the will of God is confusing. But this is why he speaks to you. This is why he gives you these nuggets of truth, so that this can be our foundation and our anchor when there is confusion going on in our life. I know I'm supposed to do A, but it seems like A is not working out, and it seems as if I have to gravitate to B. What is the problem? What is the issue? It's conflict. He's going to let them go, but in verse 19 he says they won't let them go, but they need, watch this, they need this conflict. Somebody say conflict. They have to have this conflict. Because this conflict, God ordained, he allows, because in the pursuit of what God then says that he's going to do, it gives them the power to, even though when things are moving up against them, this is just like the sermon that I ministered when the disciples were on the boat and they came out to do the thing that God told them to do, but there was a contrary wind. They went out to do what God told them to do. They were in the middle of the sea, and as they went to the middle of the sea, there was this opposite force trying to push them back against the thing that God told them to go through. But the conflict was needed, because remember what we discovered in that lesson. In the midst of the conflict, they saw Jesus in a different way. They saw him afar off. They didn't understand or recognize it being Jesus, because he was doing something strange. He was walking upon the water. But conflict allows us to be in a situation so that we can see Jesus in a different light. It is in the midst of the conflict that allows us to see not only him in the blessings, but him in the conflict as well. Not only him in the triumphs, but him in the struggles as well. I'm going to deliver them, but Pharaoh will not let them go. Don't be ashamed of conflict. Don't be embarrassed of conflict. Understand that if God has called you, everything that you are enduring, everything that you are experiencing, trust me, if he is the author, that means he is the writer, author, and finisher of your faith. That means that everything that is happening within your life, he's drawing the pages. He's writing each page. He's in control. He's writing it. And at the end of the day, I just have to acknowledge him, because sometimes I don't understand it. I can't explain it. It don't make sense to me. And all I can do just is acknowledge you, because sometimes the conflict is confusing. Verse 19, this is what it says. And I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go, no, not by a mighty hand. Let's skip down to chapter 4. This is chapter 4, where we then which is the new chapter that we will begin on. Chapter 4, certain things that takes place is extremely significant. Everything is extremely significant and important. Look at what God first gives Moses. Look at chapter 4, verse 1. And Moses answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, the Lord hath not appeared unto thee. And the Lord said unto him, what is in thy hand? And he said, a rod. And he said, cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses fled from before it. Now let's just deal with this. Moses is concerned because he says that the people will not believe that God visited him. Watch this, y'all. Watch what he says. He says to God, the people will not believe that you sent me. They will not believe that you sent me. And then God tells Moses, what is in your hand? Watch this, follow me. He says, what is in your hand? Well, what was in Moses' hand? It was a rod that he picked up in his past. Please follow me. A rod that he picked up before he came into this experience with God, a rod that he had in his past. They won't believe me. God says, what is in your hand? He says that they'll know that I'm with you based upon what you picked up in your past. Because what you picked up in your past, the people will notice something that happened from one point of your life to the next point of your life. the thing that you picked up before, the experiences, the dilemmas, the things that you did before, the lifestyle that you were in. He says that will be the very thing, the rod will be the very thing that will show the people, I'm with you. Oh yeah. Oh yes. It's the rod is in your hand. That thing that you picked up in your past. That is going to be the thing that I'm going to express myself in my glory. Because the thing that I'm going to reveal in your life is going to be so dynamic that even the people that knew you before will understand that you've been with me because of what I do in your future. He picks the rod up. He tells him to cast it down. Now notice, I want us to understand something. Watch this. Watch this. The only thing that Moses has to do this great work, watch this, the only thing that Moses has is a rod. One rod. But God said, I'm going to take that little and I'm going to do so much. Don't be discouraged with what you have. Because if God is with you, he'll take the little bit and stretch it. He'll take something small and do something big. He doesn't, and then he say all it takes is faith as a grain of a mustard seed. Something small. Don't be discouraged about what you begin with. See, a lot of us get discouraged because we don't have it together. We're discouraged because we don't have, because of our job, our financial situation. We're discouraged because we feel as if we don't have a lot of support. We're discouraged because of the situations that we're in. But we have to understand, though my beginning is small and though I'm limited with just one thing, I'm going to work that one thing. I may just have, we may just have a couple members, but we're going to preach. We're gonna minister. We're gonna stretch out as if we preaching to 1,000 folk, because we have to do great with smallness. Moses, one rod. One rod to go to Pharaoh against. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, with a rod. One rod. But it was not what it was who was in the rod. The rod, he gives it to him. Please don't despise small beginnings. So the Bible says don't despise small beginnings. See, the world judges things based upon its appearance and its appeal. This is how they judge something. But in the kingdom, we can't judge off appearance. Because we can't walk by sight. We have to walk by faith. We can't judge things off appearance because sometimes God is going to do something big in smallness. Sometimes God is going to release such a great blessing upon you. Sometimes God is going to release such a great blessing upon you. But it's going to start out in small steps. We talked about the sermon when the 10 lepers were healed. They were healed as they went. Each step brought them into deliverance. Each small baby step that they took, it brought them into a higher dimension of glory. Each step, each small step. And this is how it is with us. So again, he gives him the rod. He tells him to cast it down. It turns into a snake. He picks it back up. It turns back to a rod. He then tells him to put his hand to his chest. He looked, and then he took his hand. It became leprosy. He put his hand back to his chest, and it was healed again. And there's so many revelations in that, but we're just going to continue to skim through because we have to continue. But in verse 8, I want everybody to look at verse 8. We're in chapter 4, verse 8. Listen to what God tells Moses. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe me, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign. Somebody say, the voice of the first sign. Okay, I want everybody to say it again. The voice of the first